Why is Workday important in the market?
But Workday was the first SaaS company that actually designed their solution, once again, like I said, for the worker, not thinking about the HR department and the finance department first. Workday actually reimagined those processes, put them online with the worker being the center of it, and then having HR and finance be there to consume that data and to use that data in a way that drives business decisions. We have to think about experience, the experience of the worker at the core. And I think that's just a different design principle that was from day one at Workday.
So you were talking about placing the customer at the center of the world. And I'm really interested in the corporate cultural dimensions of that.
Workday says we put employees first because if employees are happy, they will make our customers happy. And the fact is, at the last Rising, Anil announced that they've got a 98% customer sat rating. And I would challenge any software company in the world to meet that.
Customer satisfaction or net promoter scores in the ERP space are notoriously terrible. And they're terrible because either the products were a whole lot more expensive and more difficult to implement than anybody actually believed coming in, or more importantly, the vendors have such a notorious culture for going after their own customers, doing what an attorney friend of mine calls shale fracking. They try to go in there and break up the wallet of the customer and get every little drop of money they can out of them. The fact that people get a lot of new functionality very frequently and that the vendor is maintaining that version of the code for them instead of their IT department, you've got customers who are very happy because they never have to wait on their own internal IT department to actually implement all this backed up technical debt. So it's great.
Workday emphasizes its platform. It's not the only software company to do that, but it really presents the platform in a central way. So what is the importance of platform?
It predominantly uses a number of open source technologies, which gives them an incredible cost advantage over competitors. They can scale and add customer after customer after customer, and they owe no additional fees to some third-party system software company. So that's a good thing. Number two is their platform only really has to support one technology stack and one set of code. Many of their competitors have multiple different product lines that they are supporting. In some cases, one vendor has promised to support old applications on old platforms into perpetuity. That just adds cost to the vendor, costs that have to get eventually passed down to the consumer or the customer or whatever you want to call it, the vendor. They don't have that. They've got one stack, one set of technologies.
The other thing that's impressive is with their object-oriented programming, and makes them very nimble in creating new applications is, for instance, they just created a video function to be used in learning. And then they immediately said, well, after we used it in learning, we're going to go and put it in recruiting. And I haven't seen other vendors to be that nimble when they create new functionality. And Workday does that all the time with reusable pieces.
It allows HR finance to have much more control over how its processes and tools work, and allows IT to be much more strategic in how it supports the enterprise. I think that right there is the holy grail of the platform.
Focusing particularly on HCM and financials for the moment, what are the advantages of having them integrated into a single platform?
Well, the newest application from Workday is called simply Planning. And it, for the first time for them, incorporates elements of HCM and finance into one application. And it makes sort of perfect sense. I mean, how can you be deciding to hire X number of people without knowing the financial repercussions of that?
We live in a world today where employees don't work in modules. The workforce doesn't work in modules. The workforce works in processes. And the only way to integrate processes together truly is if they're in a single platform. We can interface data all day long, but to integrate processes to create a seamless experience, that is hard stuff. And something that people shouldn't discount, whether it's Workday or any of these tools. When they think about platforms, why should things be in one platform? An integrated experience is key.
Businesses today should never be buying a bunch of little best-of-breed stuff in the finance and HR area unless it's for some peripheral small add-on piece. And here's why. Moving forward, what businesses want out of a tool set is they want a single place to find operational, financial, human capital, as well as big data and a whole bunch of other external stuff. Unfortunately, in a lot of companies, they've got 20 or 30 years of experience building what I would, if I could use the British term, a dog's breakfast of lightly, loosely integrated, spreadsheet-ridden junk. You've got latent piles or islands of data, stuff that's being pumped into spreadsheets, manipulated, and then repumped back into something else. And that's in the existing finance and HR world. And then when they try and go out and shop for new software, God help them if they recreate that same loosely interfaced kind of world together, when what they really need is they need to get as much integration as they possibly can from a core provider of all the ERP stuff they can get.
But what's really important is that these tools rely on data. And what Brian's saying is that if we're going to use some of these sexy new tools, some of these shiny objects, I have to have data in a single place so those tools can consume it.
What advice do you have for people in the enterprise who are looking at these products?
There's a lot of introspective work going on with a lot of aging out boomers who are looking at their finance operations and asking themselves, have I been a good steward of the company? And if they haven't, they're going to be looking at new technology because they can't continue the way they are with the stuff that may have gotten them through the recession, but isn't going to get them any further going forward.
Michael, I think that what's really important is that organizations look at right fit versus feature function. I think we spend way too much time on feature function. I think we spend way too much time on RFPs. I mean, there's so many different things to me that tie into the solution other than feature function.
The counsel to those companies is always try and get as much as you can from the core vendor.
Michael, I think that because this topic was Workday, I think Workday has changed the enterprise software space forever. I think there were a lot of doubters at first. I think it's changed the space and it's made the whole space better as far as how it's working with customers.